How about we do the trader? It's got to get in there sometime.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Jake, and welcome to the 44th episode of Good Timin. As always on this podcast, we're going to be talking about one of our favorite bands, the Beach Boys. And today we have a pretty fun and unique show in store for you all, as we're going to be discussing some of our favorite songs in the catalog that were primarily written by the other official members of the band, so minus Brian Wilson, and voting on and selecting 24 tracks to make up what we're going to be calling our Best of the Rest album. So if you haven't seen one of our album draft episodes before, how this works is we each will go around and nominate one eligible song at a time and make our case for why it should be included on our compilation. And then the rest of the group will vote yes or no on the song's inclusion and explain why we voted the way we did. Lastly, if 3 or more of us vote yes on a song, it officially makes it onto our album, and we'll keep on doing this process until we put together a full 24-song track list. So joining me today, I have my crew of ocean lovers, Riley, Nate, and Steve. So as always, I'm happy to have you guys here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what songs make it onto our album. So before we begin our draft, I also just wanted to briefly mention a few other quick things that I felt were important to share. First off, I do want to emphasize that just because these songs that we're discussing were not officially credited to Brian doesn't necessarily mean that he wasn't involved with them in any capacity. In particular, Brian lended a hand to quite a bit of the band's early 70s material that we'll be talking about tonight, whether that be providing backing vocals, assisting with vocal or instrumental arrangements, or even providing some additional contributions or suggestions that we might not even know about. Kind of going along with that, I also want to emphasize that the point of this episode is not to devalue or discredit Brian's incredible contributions to the band, but more so as a way to just highlight the talents of each of the other members of the group, who we feel often get overlooked or forgotten about by many casual fans of the band. And then lastly, just a couple of other quick rules relating to our draft. First off, for a song to be eligible, it has to have been primarily written by someone other than Brian. For example, the song Little Bird is officially credited as a Dennis Wilson and Stephen Kalinich song, but many people agree that it was largely written or rewritten by Brian, so for that reason, that song is not eligible for our compilation. On the other hand, the song Deirdre, which was credited to both Bruce Johnston and Brian, is generally considered to be largely a Bruce track, so that song would still be eligible for nomination despite Brian being listed as a co-writer. And then finally, we've decided to reserve the last 4 spots in our compilation for solo material. So if we'd like to nominate any solo songs by Dennis, Carl, Al, Mike, or Bruce, we can include them at the very end of our draft. So preferably, these solo songs should be written by the actual members, but we can probably make an exception or two if we need to. So I think that's enough yapping from me. So now let's get into our draft. Do any of you guys want to go first and nominate the first song for our Best of the Rest album?
So my list isn't chronological. The songs just came to me as they came to me, and I tried to put them in a list, almost like a playlist where they sort of have a nice flow to them. But anyway, my first song on the list is a number one hit, and that's Kokomo. The only number one hit that didn't have Brian's involvement, but one of the band's most famous songs, one of their most iconic songs, especially for generations that became fans after the 60s. I think it has very strong vocals from the band. It's a really strong composition from John Phillips and Mike and Terry and so on. And Terry Melcher's production is just really strong. And all around, it's just a classic song that I think would be obvious to include on the list.
Yeah, I'll give it a yes. I think Kokomo gets a very bad rap for understandable reasons, but I think it's one of those things where it kind of gets that reputation more so for kind of what happened next rather than for the actual song itself. I mean, it's very much a popular song for the casuals and a lot of the people who go to parties and stuff. But that does not take away from any of its musical greatness. I mean, just the composition itself is just fantastic. A great chord progression, very catchy hooks. It was like bred in a lab almost. Like that's how awesome it is. But it's a great song. It definitely deserves a spot on here. I think it like Nate said, it's the song that was written without Brian. It was the hit that had zero involvement from Brian. So I think it deserves a spot. It's a great song.
Kokomo demographic, people who go to parties. I love that.
Club Kokomo, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh man, the
Shout
Coco.
out.
here.
Steve, what's your vote on Kokomo?
Yeah, it gets a bad rap, but if you're gonna talk about Brian's song, or rather non-Brian songs, I mean, it's got to go in there. It's that one's a slam dunk. Very catchy, very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a yes from me as well. Again, even though the song didn't originate with Mike, like you mentioned, Nate, it was originally like a John Phillips composition. Mike did contribute that famous hook, Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I want to take you, Bermuda, Bahama, I believe. So, it's definitely, like you guys said, it's kind of the song that kind of represents like the band without Brian in a way. But I think it's a really catchy and fun song. I do agree that it gets way too bad of a rep for what it is. To me, it's just a fun 80s pop song. There's nothing wrong with it. And it is an undeniably great hook. And I think that the vocals on it are awesome as well. I especially love Carl's part. So really great 80s pop song. So it's a yes from me as well. So it's making it onto our album.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I think Steve should.
All right.
I'll go with Forever from Sunflower. I mean, prime Dennis. It seems like you can't go wrong with that one. Beautiful song. Dennis really coming into his own as a writer. I think that one's absolutely got to be part of it.
Yeah, I'll give it a yes. I mean, undeniably, this kind of has to go on here. Like, if Kokomo kind of represents Mike's like commercial success with the band, Forever represents how the other members really had it in them to write a good song. And this is, I would argue, just as popular as Kokomo if you reach the right crowd. I mean, definitely got that popularity from Full House, and for better or for worse. But I mean, if you show this song to somebody, they might not recognize it as a Beach Boys song, but they'll recognize the song.
Yeah.
It just shows Dennis's heart and soul as a songwriter, and it absolutely deserves a spot on here. It's a Beach Boys classic, and arguably one of the best songs from the entire group. So, yes.
So well put, Riley. Yeah, one of the best songs of all time. So I couldn't help but want to include it, of course. It's just sonic bliss.
Yeah, this one's going to be unanimous as well for me. This is a yes. Absolutely gorgeous ballad from both Dennis and Greg Jacobson. I love literally everything about it. I think Dennis gives it a really great tender vocal, the really heartfelt lyrics, and just the beautiful vocals and instrumental arrangement. It's one of my favorite songs in the entire catalog, and definitely one of my favorites that was not listed as a Brian co-write. So fantastic song, and really shows Dennis's talents as a songwriter. So. All right, Riley, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll round out some of the group members' contributions. I'm going to say Long Promise Road from Carl. We have Dennis's big one. We have what you could call Mike's big one. So I figured we should get Carl's big there. And it was kind of tough choosing between this or the Traitor. And I'm sure the Traitor is obviously going to get on later. I have no doubt about that. But I feel like this really represents Carl's soulful side as a songwriter. You have that like middle part where it kind of creeps down. It's very slow. It's like Long Promise Road, and then just bam, it's blast right back into the song. It's a very Carl heavy song. It was almost like he kind of wrote it for himself as a singer. And then you have some great, I believe, lyrical contributions from Jack Riley.
Yep.
And I kind of see the song representing the group coming into like as their own songwriters, as like their Long Promise Road. Like Brian had his spotlight, but now it's everybody else kind of getting their time to shine. And this is just a great song. Production's awesome. Just a great composition from Carl and Jack Riley.
This song is so ethereal and very, very one of a kind. So yes, from me, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. A great song. One of the songs that really made me start listening to the Beach Boys seriously when I first heard it. Definitely belongs there. And I expect the other two Carl and Jack Riley songs will be coming up as well.
Yeah, just an incredible song. I everything that you guys said. Probably my favorite Carl song that he did with the Beach Boys. Really great. Again, cool lyrics from Jack Riley. Just a really cool song. And it's really cool that Carl also played every instrument on it as well. Like it's pretty much entirely a Carl song with Jack Riley's words. And yeah, it's just an awesome song. I especially love that little middle section with the synthesizer where it kind of drops, like Riley said, and like it's Long Promise Road, Trail starts at dawn, carries on to the season's ending. Such a cool part. And yeah, just a really well-written song. I love Carl's guitar playing on it as well. So really love this one a lot. Definitely one of my favorites on Surf's Up. So all right, so my first selection, I'm going to go with a song from Sunflower. I'm going to go with Deirdre. This is one of my favorite Bruce songs, and it's also one of the highlights of the band's 70s catalog for me. I think it's a really great sunshine pop song. It has a gorgeous melody, and I love the instrumental arrangement as well and the backing harmonies. Just really great songwriting from Bruce, and it's kind of a whimsical song with the lyrics and everything. It's very kind of a lighthearted song, but I love it a lot, and it's one of my favorites on the Sunflower album. So I'm nominating Deirdre.
Yeah, I think I've often said that I like Bruce is too corny for his own well-being, but I do love this one. This one is kind of like, I think it could. I kind of go back and forth between this and Disney Girls, but I've always loved this one, especially in the context of the album. It fits that sunshine pop sound. I love the acoustic guitar on it. It's a bouncy song with a great feel to it. And it's like Bruce like balancing on the corniness line. Like if you went a little further, I probably wouldn't like it, but I love this one. It's such a happy song.
Yeah, to me, Sunflower represents like this juxtaposition of cheeriness and sunniness and sort of like post teenage years melancholy a little bit. Like I would say the Friends album largely feels like just married, just starting to have kids, like early adulthood, but by Sunflower, they're like truly no longer kids. And the stuff is very far removed from the beach and sandals and hot dogs and all that shit. And yet Deirdre, the music is so cheerful, but the lyrics are actually kind of sad or bittersweet.
Mm-hmm.
So just an all around great composition. One of my favorite Bruce songs too. So yes, from me.
Yeah, it definitely belongs there. It as you guys have pointed out, it walks the line between being too sweet, but it just stays on this side of it. So doesn't quite go over as Bruce sometimes does. So definitely belongs there, and great song I really enjoy.
Nate?
All right, my next song is another one from the dynamic duo of Mike Love and Terry Melcher, and that is Summer in Paradise, but specifically the Wembley 1995 version that was on the Made in California box set with the live instruments and the saxophone and all that. I think the studio version is kind of static, but that live version just really rips and really kicks ass and makes the song come across more earnestly. And I actually prefer Bruce on the bridge than Roger McGuinn's cameo. I think it just fits with the song better. But is it the best song in the world? You know, probably not. But is it the most representative of where the group was at in the 90s? Definitely, I would say. And so I think that alone sort of makes it deserving of a spot.
Nate gives a good argument, so you're gonna have to come back to me on this.
All right, Steve.
I definitely would not have chosen it. I'm not that familiar with the live version. I think I've probably played it once. I'll have to go back and revisit it based on your recommendation. 24 tracks is a lot of tracks, especially when you're talking about these guys writing without Brian. So I'll go ahead and go with it. It's definitely not one that I would have chosen, but
If I can add something too, a lot of my choices are some of the more obscure or oddball ones because I didn't want too many repeats. So I tried to avoid some of the ones that I knew you guys were going to pick and pick some more ones that might turn some heads. But cool, I'm glad we're at a yes from you, Steve.
Yeah, I respect the song. Like, it's fine for what it is. I'm probably gonna say no, just because there's definitely like quite a few other songs I want to make sure that get on here. That said, though, it's a compelling argument, Nate. Like, I get what you're saying. It definitely is kind of representative of that period of the band. It's definitely one of the more decent songs of Summer in Paradise, in my opinion. I have not heard that live version in a while. Like Steve said, I maybe heard it once or twice, but I definitely have to give it another listen. So I'm going to say no for now, but it's one that I'd maybe consider adding at the end when we go over the track list if we need to, move anything around or add anything. So, Riley, do you have a vote?
Yeah, you know what? I'm all for Summer in Paradise representation. I think that there's quite a few good pop compositions on there if you're looking purely at like compositions. But this is probably not one I'd choose. I would have honestly a couple more, 3 or 4 more that I would probably choose above it. However, same with Jake. If we're having trouble filling out the list, I would gladly put this on there because I don't think it's a bad song, and I think it is definitely worth a nomination. So I'm gonna say no. And I disagree. I love the Roger McGuinn part.
If Matt was here, we know what his vote would be on that one.
Oh no.
Terrible lyrics.
Yeah, fuck the environment. We hate that.
We came out rocking with Rhonda and Barbara Ann, man. All right, who's next? Is it Steve? I think it's Steve.
Okay. Let me see. I'll mix it up a little bit with Baby Blue from the Light album.
Okay.
Although I guess I'm doing all Dennis, which I didn't intend to do. Beautiful ethereal song. I wish they had, pursued a more adult mainstream rock that they did on that album. I wish they had gone more in that direction rather than trying to get back to fun in the sun and, pretending that it's 1965 again with synthesizers. But yeah, just a great track I really love.
I think I put it as one of my alts. But I'm actually going to say no, because I think there's actually a couple of Dennis tracks I'd put above Baby Blue from LA. Angel Come Home and Love Surrounds Me, I think are both a bit better. However, again, same with last time. If we have trouble filling it out, I'll gladly put this one on there, because I agree with you, man. I think that they should have gone with the more adult contemporary singer-songwriter style rather than that sunshine pop thing that they're trying to revive. Because I think they had a couple of great songs in them in that style that they could have easily just done more of. So I love Baby Blue, but I think if we're going LA, I'd rather go with the other Dennis and Carl tracks from there.
Nate?
Yeah, along the lines of what you guys have said on here and there on this and that, is that I do truly love the song and consider it a masterpiece of a song. But to compete for a spot in the list of 20 or 24, I probably would vote no too.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page as you guys with this one. I'm kind of split on it. I do really like the song. I love Carl's vocal on it during the verses. I really love Dennis's vocal during the bridge as well. It's so full of emotion, and he just really sounds like he means every word that he sings. So I do think it's a very strong song. That said, I do agree with Riley. There is at least one other song on LA that I would prefer from Dennis. So I am going to say no for now, but this is definitely another one of those ones where if we need to revise the track list at the end, we can definitely consider adding it on. So a great song, though. I do really like the song a lot. All right, who's next here? Is it you, Riley?
Yeah, I'm going to take it back, and I'm going to go with the first completely solo Mike Love song. I'm going to go with Big Sur, and specifically the Surf's Up Sessions version from, I think, 70 or 71. I think that this showed that Mike really did have a knack for hooks, because that's pretty much all this song is. It's just pure. It's just a great melody. It's just one giant hook. And the lyrics are absolutely gorgeous. I think that this is some of Mike's best lyrics, especially with the imagery. I can literally picture. I've never been to Big Sur in my entire life, but I can totally picture everything that he's talking about. Mm-hmm. And it's just a gorgeous song. And I think the melody and production, especially back, the lyrics, and it gives it a great sense of and I think I said this about another song before, you just kind of feel like you're there, and you can really see it when you close your eyes. Gorgeous song from Mike. It showed that if he kept on working on his craft rather than writing a bunch of, even though I do like the song, a bunch of Summer in Paradises, if he really honed his craft in the early 70s, he could have been a great songwriter in his own right. And I think he was, because this song is absolutely gorgeous.
Big yes from me. I agree with everything you said, that it just evokes such beautiful imagery. And the Surf's Up version does have a bit of this, I would almost call it a Walt Disney vibe. You just like you said, it just paints this picture in your mind, and it's very light and floaty, and just truly one of the prettiest recordings I've ever heard.
I like it as well. I think it belongs there. I think it's, I like both versions. Get this cat out of the way. Sorry. And it definitely belongs. Mike loves songwriting at its best.
Yeah, I absolutely love this song. I think it's gorgeous. The Feel Flows version I really like a lot, and I also really like the Holland version. Oh, yeah. If I had to pick one, I probably would go the Feel Flows, just because I really like the dreamy arrangement of it. I remember when I first heard this on the Feel Flows box set, which was shortly after the time I really started getting into the band when that came out. I was just blown away by it. I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. Like Riley said, the lyrics are so good on this. He really paints a picture with his words, very poetic. And yeah, like Riley said, it transports you to a place that you may have never even been before, but Mike did such a great job describing it in this song. And I love the harmonies as well on the Feel Flows version. So yeah, it's a definite yes from me. Definitely my favorite Mike Love composition. So
I honestly could have. I could have went with the Holland version, but I didn't want to put the entire California Saga on here because I easily
Yeah.
could.
Yeah, I think the Holland version definitely works better if you do pair it with the other two tracks. But yeah, I'm with you, Riley. I wouldn't want to include the whole
Not
thing.
even that. I think it works much better in just in the context of the whole album. It fits really well with in terms of like the instrumentation on it with the Holland album. But if I'm going for a solo version of the song, I'm absolutely going with the Feel Flows.
All right. I know we already have quite a bit of Dennis representation, but I am gonna nominate another one, Dennis, from the Sunflower album, "Slip On Through." This is another Dennis and Greg Jacobson composition. This is a really funky and soulful track. I really love Dennis's vocal on it, especially during the chorus. And the backing vocals on this are great as well. Just a really cool track, and I think it's a great way to kind of open up the band's like new period, with Warner Reprise. And it's a great way to open up Sunflower as well. So, really funky and soulful song, and it's one that really shows Dennis coming into his own as a songwriter. So, great track.
Yeah, it kind of was like a sneak preview of his solo album, Pacific Ocean Blue, in many ways. Yeah, dude, it's so soulful. It's a great way to kick off the Sunflower album. I love the horns on it. I think there's horns on it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, there's horns on it. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've listened. I don't want to get that wrong. I know the fans would just chew me out for that. Yeah, dude, it's just a great song. It's one of the first songs that I really dove into the catalog with. That kind of shocked me that this was the Beach Boys, and it's awesome to see this as a Dennis Wilson song. Gets my vote.
Yeah, it's cool because with the previous album opening with Do It Again, the message that was being sent was we're not sure if we're going forward or going back, you know? But with the opening track on the following album being Slip On Through, it was a very confident, assertive way of saying we're moving forward, we're experimenting, we're not the same high school kids anymore. So yeah, it's not one that I had on my list, but I do really love the song, and just talking about it and thinking about it makes me realize that it was like a brave way for them to open up their new era of their career. So yeah, I'll vote yes.
They're not the same high school kids. They're going to be the hairiest band of the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the perspective that you guys have put on it as the opening track on Sunflower is fantastic. Just on a personal level, it's never grabbed me the way it has a lot of people. It's a song I can appreciate. I don't go and grab it and put it out to play very often, but I think it belongs there. For some reason, it's just never spoken to me the way it speaks to other people. I consider that some personal blind spot or something. So, but yeah, I would vote yes.
Yeah, Steve, if I remember right, you said you're sometimes a little indifferent on Dennis's Rockers, right? Sometimes.
Yeah. That one I like better than the others, but Dennis's early Rockers have never really registered.
You did not like All I Want to Do.
I do not like All I Want to Do. Although I like it better with Dennis singing it than with.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I like anything better with Dennis singing it, basically. Anyway, I vote yes on Slip On Through.
All right, it's back to, I believe, Nate now.
All right. For my number 3, I will do Lahaina Aloha, another pick from Summer in Paradise that I think has a really strong lead vocal from Carl, really interesting lyrics from Mike, and really cool chord progressions from Terry Melcher.
Absolutely. This is one of the songs I was kind of hinting at when I said I think Summer in Paradise has some great pop rock songs. And like even the what can be said was like a badly produced album. I don't really hear it so much on this one. I think that maybe the snare might be a little loud in spots, but it doesn't really show up as much. It's kind of like a Kokomo's like better written, or I guess more complexly written cousin. But it
does have like a mysterious vibe to it.
Yeah, and having like been to Lahaina like over the summer and seeing like all like the stuff from like the fires and stuff, it's like holy crap! Like
seeing where the sea breeze meets the palm trees.
Yeah, not many palm trees, man. But like it was so cool. I actually went surfing in Lahaina, so. I surfed for 3 seconds and then I fell off the board. But that's 3 more seconds than my brother. But beautiful song, gorgeous song, and Carl really elevates this And it's just, yeah, dude, it shows that Summer in Paradise has some freaking bangers on it.
You had about as much success surfing as Brian, Riley.
I have about 2 more seconds more success surfing than Brian. But I could see why he got scared when the board nearly hit his head, because holy crap, that shit's like crazy.
Yeah. Steve?
People have recommended that song to me. I don't know. Summer in Paradise is a hard slog for me. And I just have never warmed up to it. It doesn't speak to me. I'm gonna go no on that. I got to draw the line somewhere on Summer in Paradise, and here's where it is. So I'll vote no.
All right, so it's down to me. So in terms of the Summer in Paradise tracks, like I'm very kind of mixed on the album. Like there are some songs that I do like on there, but I think that a lot of them are held back by the production. Like Riley mentioned, like the snare drum is way too loud on a lot of them. That said, Lahaina Aloha is honestly like this clear highlight of the entire album for me. I love this song. Really love Carl's lead vocal, like you mentioned. Cool lyrics from Mike. And I just think it's a really well-written song. I really love the chorus. But I think, Nate, you kind of mentioned that like the chorus has some extra melancholy to it. Like, I want to, but I can't stay. I'm going to sail away, like thinking that Carl would pass away a few years later. It definitely gives it some extra emotion. I also really love the little guitar solo on this song as well. I actually kind of feel something when I listen to that. Like it feels like there's some actual emotion in it. And yeah, like Riley said, this is one of the few songs in the album where I feel like the production doesn't completely hinder it. I do think the snare is too loud, but besides that, I honestly think the song sounds fine. And yeah, it's just a very strong track, I think, and I really love it a lot. So I'm giving it a yes. So, Steve, what do you got?
Okay, let's see. Let's do. I gotta stay away from Dennis now.
No, you don't.
You've got 24 songs.
How about we do The Traitor? It's got to get in there sometime.
Hi.
Yeah, yeah. Great song. Absolutely love it. Particularly the second half, taking it softly.
Yeah.
So ethereal, so beautiful. It's a great piece of work. Track I go back to a lot. Just put in mixes and just a fantastic piece of work from, again, Carl and Jack Riley.
Yeah, man, I guess my vote. If I kind of see it as Carl's heroes and villains, like if it's kind of like Brian looks through like the 1800s with his like lens, and you get heroes and villains with that. This is Carl looking at it through the lens of this shit kind of sucked, man. But it's a great, like, I'm a big history buff, and like the lyrics here are just freaking genius from Jack Riley. But it's a weird composition from Carl, and I mean that like in the best way possible. Like he's writing like a pretty complex song with like all these different parts, and it's freaking gorgeous. I mean, the opening is balls to the wall, nuts, just like in your face, and then it unlike most songs where it's kind of like Stairway to Heaven where it builds up slowly, it's complete reverse. You have like a fast opening, and then it just slows down for the next 2 minutes, and it's gorgeous. It's an awesome song. Absolutely gets my vote.
Nate?
Yeah, yes, from me too. I think I really like the groove of this song with the I think it's like a synth bass, a Moog synth bass playing with Ricky's drumming, and just a really cool groove for the sort of rock section. And then, like Riley mentioned, it goes into that very ethereal, softer section. And yeah, the song just packs a lot of emotion, and Carl's vocals are really wonderful, and they're starting to show some of the maturity and some of the age that would be more apparent as that decade went on. Trader's kind of like the early glimpse of what I'd say is Carl's like later day vocal sound.
Yeah, it's a yes from me as well. Everything you guys said, I pretty much agree with. Awesome song from Carl and Jack Riley. Right up there with Long Promised Road for me as my favorite Carl composition. Like Nate said, it has a great groove to it. Really love the melody. I love how it kind of launches right into it from the start. Cool lyrics, kind of about like manifest destiny, kind of like anti-imperialism, which is pretty cool. And I also really love Brian's backing vocals on this as well. I think Marilyn's on it as well, which you can really hear them. I think in the Sail on Sailor box set version where they have it just the backing track, you can really hear their vocals more prominently, which is really cool. So really well-written song. I really love both sections as well. Kind of like how the first section transitions real smoothly into the second with that real kind of, like you guys said, a very ethereal sound to it. And yeah, absolutely love the song. I think it's one of the highlights of Holland. So yes for me.
All right. So we're gonna go through, at least just me. We're gonna go through. Riley wants to do Beach Boys '85 for the next like 20 minutes. So I'm gonna get through the first set of songs. And I'm walking through a ring of fire here because I think I'm just gonna be the only one who's voting for it. But I'm putting out maybe I don't know. I think that this is just a killer song, and it's one of those ones where if you heard it like without any context, you'd probably think it's just some '80s pop artist, a la like White Snake or something with a bit of synths. It's just a freaking killer '80s pop song with had great guitar from I believe Gary Moore. I love Steve Levine's like touches on it. I love the synths. I love the keyboards, and I think Carl gives an incredible voice on this song. And I feel like if Carl put out an album in the mid '80s, it would just be all of this. And I don't know. I love this one. It sounds maybe nothing like the Beach Boys, but I think it showed that even like in the 85, 84, 85 kind of time, they're trying to put out contemporary music that wasn't just about cars and girls. It showed that they're really still trying to push to the contemporary and the mainstream. And I love this one. So I feel like I'm going to be the only one voting for it, but I freaking love it. And if I didn't nominate it, I'd be really mad at myself.
Nate.
Well, it gets a vote from me because, man, I love this song. What initially obviously grabbed my attention was the crazy guitar playing, but then what obviously really made me fall in love was the actual song itself. And I can't say the lyrics like were anything that blew my mind, but the passion of Carl's delivery and even the background harmonies from the band too are just really awesome. And I really dig Steve Levine's production on the song too. So yeah, this one knocks it out of the park for me. So it's a yes from me.
All right, so I'm actually going to get my vote out of the way here so we can leave this to Steve because Riley knows voting on this. I'm not really that much of a fan of this song. I think the guitar is cool on it. That's definitely the thing that I remember the most from it. It's like very heavy guitar playing, which is pretty neat. I believe from Gary Moore. But like the song itself doesn't really do that much for me. Like the chorus, like the maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't know, just I don't know. It just doesn't really click with me. So not the biggest fan of this one. In terms of the 85 tracks, like a lot of them have grown on me over time. Like songs I used to not care for that I like now, but that one in particular is one that I usually don't really come back to. So it's a no from me, but it's down to Steve, whatever Steve votes here.
Nate gave a good response. Nate has it right there. He says it's not the lyrics don't do anything, but the song's awesome. That describes like half the '80s material from every band ever.
Well, you not only am I going to vote yes,
Yeah!
it was the next song I was going to nominate. So I love it. It's got a punch to it. I love the guitar on it. I think it's well written. It to me, and maybe it's just the timing because the album came out right after I moved to Los Angeles, but it always sounds to me like LA. There's something in that open sound that it has.
I was gonna say, yeah, it kind of sounds like Miami Vice almost.
Yeah. There's the airiness to it that sounds like LA without them ever having to mention LA in it. And actually, coincidentally, it was we were married at the top of Topanga Canyon in 1999, and it was one of two Beach Boys songs I had on our wedding reception mix along with Our Sweet Love because it just sounded right somehow. So it gets a hearty yes from me.
Suck it, Jake. What was that? What was the song of it the first time? Car Crazy Cutie Part 2.
Yeah, except that one has legitimately grown on me though. Like Car Crazy Cutie, it's on my Beach Boys playlist now, so I like that song now. But yeah,
and next up it'll be maybe I don't know.
No, maybe I don't know, Riley. Maybe I don't know. All right, so my next song, I'm gonna go with one from Surf's Up, Disney Girls from Bruce Johnston. I love this song. This is probably my favorite Bruce song. Love the melancholic lyrics, the arrangement with the really pretty backing vocals and the piano. Just a really moving song, and I think it really comes from the heart. Bruce really sings it well, and I just think it's a really well-written composition. I love how it transitions from the verse to the really pretty bridge section as well. The whistling at the end is very melancholic as well. Just a masterpiece in songwriting, and for me, like, this is Bruce's best song. So absolutely love the song, and it's one of the deep cuts, I believe, one of the first deep cuts that I got really into when I was first kind of getting really into the band. So
yep, Deirdre and Disney Girls are two of the band's greatest songs, and easily two of Bruce's best compositions. I like I said before many times, I'm not a big fan of a lot of his stuff, but this one is always hit me in the feels. Creates that sense of nostalgia, and I think it fits right in on the Surfs Up album of like looking back and Surfs Up kind of thing. Great song, absolutely deserves a spot.
Yeah, I totally think it's truly one of the most gorgeous songs ever written. The lyrics, I feel like when you listen to them when you're young, you're really confused by them. And then the older you get, you start to understand the lyrics and understand what the song's all about. So the lyrics really hit home. The arrangement is very creative with the mandolins and the flutes and the waltz time and the very, very creative arranging. And I mean, you know, it's a great song if you've got um Garfunkel covering it and Mama Cass covering it and all these brilliant artists. They love the song too. So it's kind of like one of the all-time classics. And so totally a yes for me. I love the harmonies, love everything about it. I could do a whole hour-long podcast just about this one song. So I
Kind of
think it's
did.
perfect. Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best Bruce song, and really belongs there. It's a great arrangement. I, Garfunkel, Cass Elliot, all the other people that covered it, I don't think ever did as well. Bruce did a solo piano version of it on the B side of a Papa Do Run. I think it was a Papa Do Run
Yep,
single that
exactly.
is almost definitive, except for some reason he emphasizes the having a baby. I forget how the line goes exactly, but he gets carried away with that line and kind of undermines it. But nice. Apart from that one little gaffe in it, that's another nice version. But the Beach Boys version to me just is the definitive arrangement, definitive performance. I've always wondered how Bruce writes songs. It's a mystery to me. Doesn't seem to write much at all. It's not like he's turning out a whole lot of minor compositions or something, but then all of a sudden there's Disney Girls, and then there's not another song. Then it's like he doesn't write another song for 8 years.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, he writes absolutely a ton, but is so self-conscious about it. And 9 out of 10 things go in the waste bin, so to speak. And the only
That
things that come out are the ones that he's like exceptionally proud of.
that would make sense. And I know he's a highly, highly self-critical
Mm-hmm.
artist. So
Yeah, exactly.
on that basis too.
How the hell did he release Go in Public then, man? I have
Half
to,
the songs on the album he wrote in his teens that were just re-records of songs he wrote as a kid.
And
Well,
then
I think it was from winning the Grammy for I Write the Songs. They wanted an album out. But I know he's disavowed it. As he has almost everything he's ever done, really. Apparently he's very difficult to interview because he doesn't want to talk about anything he's ever done. So.
yeah.
go Deirdre.
I really wish Disney Girls had like the level of popularity that like something like I Write the Songs has, like that song, like I don't hate that song, like it's fine, but like Disney Girls in my opinion is like so superior to that and like
Put
every
it on TikTok, it'll get huge.
there you go.
My next pick for number 4 is a song that a lot of people might not know, but I think it's a great rocker and one of the last times they really captured that 60s youthful sound. And Mike's lead on the song to me would almost make me think I was listening to a 1960s Mike Love vocal, and Al, to his credit. But the song I'm talking about is It's a Beautiful Day from 1979. I think the song just kicks ass and is a lot of fun. And sort of like we've been talking about with a lot of these Mike Love songs, the lyrics are so evocative and so intertwined with the whole California culture and spirit that you just visualize these beautiful images in your mind when you're listening to the song. And also Carl's vocals on this song are really special too.
Yeah, I'll second. It's a Beautiful Day. I usually dislike when they trade on that California culture thing in the lyrics, but they do it well here. The vocals are nice. The production is nice. Yeah, I'd go for that.
I'll say no just because there's a bunch of other songs I'd rather want, but it's a good song.
Well, I'm gonna say yes. This is a pleasant surprise to me that you guys, two people on here, mentioned this. I love this song. I honestly forgot about it, so I'm glad you guys reminded me of it. Yeah, I think it's a really great, catchy song. Definitely an obscure song. I think it was in some kind of crappy movie from the late 70s. I don't think anybody really remembers it. But I think it's a really catchy song. Like you said, it kind of captures like the band's classic sound. Fun vocal from Mike and Al and Carl. I love Carl's vocal on the chorus, like the "Living out in LA, such a beautiful day." It's just a really great written song, and I really like it a lot. So it's a yes from me.
I went to see the movie in the theater in 1979.
How was
It was terrible. But the reason I went was Elvis Costello was in it. Elvis Costello made an
Love
appearance.
Elvis Costello.
You know, this is pre-MTV, so to get a chance to actually see Elvis Costello,
Yeah.
you know, in more than a photograph. There weren't even many photographs.
Popularity too. This was right after this year's model came out, right?
Yeah, it was after Armed Forces. Armed Forces was out. But I mean, every record he was making at that point was fantastic. So I like the Beach Boys track on it. But the reason I went to see the Beach Boys weren't in it, I went to see it because Elvis Costello was. He's in it for like 30 seconds, bopping around, miming to the song.
Yeah. Also, fun trivia: one of two Beach Boys songs to mention roller skating. I'm sure you can imagine what the other.
Yeah, I fucking wonder.
But don't bother with the movie. It's not worth it.
What's that? Didn't they call like Americathon or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a telethon to save America. America had run out of natural resources, and they were holding a telethon to save America.
Wasn't that a plot of a Full House episode too?
Yeah, I was about to say, man, that's fucking Full House.
Yeah, the Mike Love was on that episode, I think. Tying it all back home.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, what's your next nomination?
Okay, let me think here. Because I'm very heavily weighted to Beach Boys 85, Surf's Up, and Howl.
85.
Oh, I got one. How about All This Is That?
Yep.
Beautiful.
That's like literally everybody except Brian. I think Al, Mike, and Carl all had a writing credit on that.
Yep.
Dude, it's freaking gorgeous. It's kind of has that like chill wave kind of vibe to it. It's a very like chill song, especially with
kind of like All I Want to Do Part 2 in a way.
Yeah. And I do know that Saint Etienne, I think is the name of the band, because I do love them. They're big fans of the Carl and the Passions album. So this song definitely had an influence on them, and because they're very like chill, like lo-fi, like beats kind of like albums from the 90s. So dude, freaking incredible song. And it's a very nice song.
Gosh, what a vocal arrangement. And off the top of my head, I can't remember who did the vocal arranging on this one. If it was Al or Carl or Bruce, I'm not sure, but man, those harmonies are so lovely. And I think it most likely probably largely is a mixture of Al taking the poem and Mike bringing a lot of what he learned on his somewhat recent trip to India. And those two things sort of fusing and just resulting in this very, very lush, beautiful song. So yeah, what a really cool use of like a lot of major seventh chords, a lot of very dense chords in this song. And yeah, a really, really wonderful song. So capital Y, capital E, capital S for me.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs in the entire catalog. It was my most listened to song on Spotify for 2 years in a row. So yeah, I absolutely love it. Beautiful song, great lyrics, very dreamy sound to it. Like Riley said too, it's kind of like a cousin of All I Want to Do in a way. It kind of has that similar sound going. Carl's vocal at the end always gives me chills too, like the J Guru Dev as the song fades out. Just really pretty. And yeah, I think it's when the band tried to write songs about transcendental meditation, they didn't always succeed, but in this case, I think they nailed it perfectly, both in like the sound of the song and just the songwriting itself. I just think it's an incredible track. So always have loved this song.
All right. Keeping up with my Beach Boys 85 trend. I got a couple more after this, funnily enough, but I'm going to throw out Get You Back. This is kind of a song that kind of has a bad reputation in terms for the album, because people think that the album's just like them being a nostalgia act, when it's just not at all true. But this song in particular, it does have that nostalgic feel to it. I think Mike, he gives such a nice, like, tender vocal. Great progression from Terry Melcher, and I love that this is kind of the start of their partnership. Because I feel like even though like production may have weighed them down, they had a couple of great pop songs that they wrote together. But it's a really nice, sweet song about looking back on like your childhood, and it's kind of the stuff that you used to do when you're like a kid, and I really love it.
Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite songs. It just hits a certain spot in your heart. It's very, very comforting to listen to, and it just has a very harmonious spirit to it. And I think it's a great example of the 1980s production actually serving the song
Mhm.
because it was sort of their like an unspoken tribute to Dennis Wilson, and those huge 80s drums are very reminiscent of the way that Dennis would just beat those drums on stage. So yeah, a really, really lovely song. I actually prefer the version with where Mike updated the lyrics because I think the lyrics just flow better and sound a little better on that version. But well, I don't care whether it's the Beach Boys version, Mike's version. I think it's a hell of a song. So yes for me.
It's a yes for me as well. Uh, when it came out, I took the "Get You Back," the undercurrent or the undertone on "Get You Back." I took to be getting the audience back after such a big break between albums. Um, and yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, I thought that there was it's certainly yeah, some undercurrent of that at the time. And it's nostalgic, but it's not nostalgic that they're singing about fun in the sun and California, and it's more subtle than that. And yeah, and I don't mind the production. I mean, it was those days. It's kind of a treat to hear that production again now, since it's not in my everyday listening. Definitely a really excellent song and really belongs in the selection.
Also, Brian's falsetto is pretty
Yeah,
much pretty much back.
Yeah,
that was
this is
back.
one song that Brian's on. So yeah, we gotta shout that out.
Yeah, this is one that wasn't originally on like my list, but I had it as an honorable mention, so I'll give it a yes as well. Definitely like one of the strongest songs on the '85 album. Yeah, like you said, it's kind of like the band's classic songwriting, their classic sound, blended with the more updated '80s production. And I think in this case, it works really, really well. I think it's a very catchy song. I like the lyrics, and it's cool hearing Brian on it as well. So I like it, '80s production and all. So it's a yes from me.
Obviously, no one can like replace Brian Wilson. That just goes without being said. But it's interesting, like in the way that Brian used Roger Christian or Gary Usher as like a surrogate Mike, I think Terry Melcher worked really well as a surrogate Brian for Mike to work with and delivered a lot of the goods that Brian brought to the table harmonically and with the fancy chords.
Terry
And
definitely
get
had
your
had a knack for melody. You hear that in a lot of their compositions, for better or for worse.
yeah.
All right, this is tough because like I'm looking at my list and there's like quite a few songs here I really want to get on here, but I kind of have to hope some of you guys mention some of these. I'm gonna go with something off of Holland, another song off of Holland. Leaving This Town. I really love this song. This is one of the highlights of the Holland album for me. It's kind of a collaborative effort. I believe the song originated with Ricky Vitar, but then Carl and Blondie Chaplin and Mike helped them finish it. I think it's a really great track. I like the lyrics. They're very like powerful words about kind of like pushing forward in the face of adversity. I think Blondie gives it a really great lead vocal. And of course, that Moog solo, I believe, which is played by Ricky, is really cool as well. So, one of the band's most progressive sounding songs. I know Riley loves the live version. I personally do prefer the studio version, just because I kind of connect with it more. Like when I'm listening to the studio version, I kind of connect more with like the lyrics and like the composition itself. Whereas when I listen to the live version, I'm kind of like more so like focusing on the actual live performance versus like the actual meaning of the song. So, really love this song a lot though, and I'm nominating it. So, what do you guys think for Leaving This Town?
Yeah, it definitely gets a bonus points for having not only just Ricky and Blondie, but also members of the core band. So that definitely helps this case for me. But you know how I feel about this one. I love it. I love Blondie's soulful vocal on it. I love that keyboard solo, or organ solo, or whatever. But besides that, even if you take it out, I think it's still a very like soulful and like emotional song. But yet it's also very subtle with it. It's just a great song. Easy yes for me.
I guess I gotta play a bit of the contrarian role on this one. I do think it's a cool song. I will say that I think it's a really neat, almost follow up to That's Not Me. The subject matter is really similar, and the fact that they're both piano and organ driven
Hmm.
sort of makes them related in my mind. But with that said, if I'm being like totally objective, I think the song itself is a little drab and it's like saved by nice performances and an interesting arrangement, but I can't say the song itself moves me very much. I don't think there's too much melody there. So yeah, it would be a no for me.
Damn.
It's an interesting take, Nate, on that. You know, the performance and the playing saves it from being drab. I think you're onto something there. But and it sounds more like Blind Faith than the Beach Boys,
Yeah.
but I love it. And you know, it's interesting though. I was like, it was okay, and then when I started to review Holland to talk about on my channel, I put it on. It's like, damn, that is really good. And
Yeah.
you know, I mean, decade after decades and decades of having it there, boy, it just a year or so, when I was reviewing it for Holland, it really grabbed me. It's a track I love, and yeah, I vote yes.
I feel it's one of their most like contemporary sounding songs too. Like for the time, like this shit fit right in at the time. So
Oh,
yeah.
Steve, that is like dead on with the blind faith comparison because that's totally true.
All right, so it is now Nate's turn to pick something.
All right, my next tune. Yes, the lyrics are overly nostalgic
Oh
and
yeah.
have many puns.
Uh-oh.
But I think it's a great rocker. I think it's just a really happy song and it's fun to play in the car. Hint, hint. But that is Still Cruising. I really like the guitar riffs throughout the song, and I like the way that all the vocalists trade off in a way kind of similar to Add Some Music, that kind of thing, where each band member gets like a line or two to shine on. But yeah, I think it's just a great rock and roll song. So yeah,
Riley.
Ooh. You know,
Yeah.
we got 10 more spots left.
Yeah, but didn't we say four of them are going to be like solo stuff though?
Right. So that's really six.
Yeah.
If we're gonna go with another 80s one, there's a couple more I'd have ahead of this. So I'm gonna say no, but I'll put it on the back burner for now. I'll write it down as an alt for me. Just because there's a couple, and there's another one on that album I'd much rather have. If you know which one I'm thinking about.
I know which one.
Yeah, you know exactly which one.
Steve.
Yeah, I'll put it on the back burner. Sorry, it just it's one where they are trading on their past in a way that I don't enjoy. Yeah, I'm happy that somebody loves it. I'd never try to talk anybody out of it, but it's not a song that speaks to me. So I would say I would pass.
Fair.
Yeah, this one's tough for me because like I do like this song, like cheesy lyrics at all. Like I think it's a fun time. I would say for now I'd kind of put it on the back burner, like maybe just write it down and then you know, if we have some room at the end or we want to move some stuff around, we can maybe add it. But yeah, I do like the song. I like the production on it. I really like Carl's vocal, like the "When We Go Cruising." Yeah, I really like that a lot. And I also love the guitar work on the song as well. I think that's really cool too. So one of my favorite songs, like from the band's kind of like later '80s period, I guess you could call it. But yeah, I'm gonna pass on it for now. All right, it's Steve.
Okay, let me see.
So we have six spots left for Beach
Oh,
Boy.
okay. Well, we better get serious then. It may not all be all that interesting because we've already touched on it. How about Feel Flows? I mean,
Yes, from me. Yes, from me. This song's production is just insane. I can't remember if it was Jack Riley or Steve Desper or maybe even Carl himself, but one of those guys said that the song was designed for the Stoner's headset with the way all the crazy sounds move around and the reverse tape effects and yeah, just a truly magnificent production. Definitely on the level of some of the things the Beatles did on Sgt. Pepper, where it's just very innovative and psychedelic. So yes, from me.
Yeah, it's a yes from me as well. This is one that definitely took some time to grow on me. Like I remember it didn't click with me right away. It probably has to do with the fact that like I wouldn't say I'm like the biggest like prog rock person. But over time it's really clicked with me. Really love Carl's production work on this. The song just sounds really great. Again, I think this is another one of those ones where he played most of the instruments on it, which is really neat. And yeah, it's just a really kind of like trippy sounding song. I like the kind of like unusual lyrics from Jack Riley. And that guitar work, those guitar solos that come in throughout the song are just like kick ass. Like I love the guitar tone on this song. So really cool track, and it's definitely one that's been a big grower for me. So definite yes from me for sure.
Yeah, for a guy who's a really big Floyd fan, this is about the closest you'll get to a Pink Floyd Beach Boys collab. It sounds straight off of Metal or Adam Heartmother, and it's just sonic bliss. It's there's so much going on, and it's some of the best production that came from the band. Period. One of the coolest arrangements they ever did, and the lyrics are equally trippy. It's crazy to think that Carl had such a big hand in this because like this is the same guy who is out there singing Wild Honey and Darlin', and it's just crazy to think that a couple of years later he's doing one of the most trippy songs the band ever did. So absolutely. It'd be easy for me to pick one of my favorite 80s songs, but I think I gotta go in reverse a little bit. Hold on, let me check my list. You know what, man? We have very little LA representation, so I won't go with 85, but I'll pull out my boy Cushing Murray. Got to interview him back. I'm gonna go with Angel Come Home. Um, this one has a fantastic chorus to it. It's just a really well written singer songwriter track from Carl. And the lyrics are also pretty cool. Shout out Cushing Murray again. But even the melody is just awesome. I'm kind of surprised we didn't get more of this from the Beach Boys. I really love the singer songwriter direction, and I think that Dennis gives an incredible vocal on this one. So it's kind of cool that you got Carl writing a song and Dennis getting the vocals. I feel like whenever they did that, they always had something special. So Angel Come Home from LA.
That's a yes from me. I love the way that Dennis sings the song. It is a song sort of like what I said with Leaving This Town, where I don't know how much I would love it if I heard someone else sing it. But with Dennis singing it, it's just heart-wrenching, just sort of kicks you right in the gut. It would have totally been at home on Pacific Ocean Blue or Bamboo. In fact, Dennis sort of owns the song so much that I always thought it was a Dennis song until I looked into it and saw that Carl wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just a really neat song. So yeah, it's a yes from me.
Yeah, it's a yes from me as well. Dennis's vocal, as you guys have said, is phenomenal. I like the verse. I love the verses. I like the choruses. Really strong song and gets a thumbs up from me.
Yeah, this is a song I've honestly never been quite as enthusiastic about as a lot of other people seem to be. Like a lot of people say, including most of you guys, I'm sure that this is one of the highlights of LA. Like for me, like it's a solid track. I do like Dennis's vocal on it. For me, that's kind of honestly like makes me like it, I would say, is Dennis's soulful lead vocal. But yeah, I mean the production on it I feel is a little wonky at some places. Like the backing vocals sound a little jarring at times, like during the chorus. But that said, I'll give it a yes. I do think that it's a cool track. It's cool that Carl wrote this, Carl and Jeffrey Cushing Murray, and had Dennis sing it. I think that was a great choice. And yeah, there's some emotion in this, which definitely makes it more of a powerful song. So I'll give it a yes.
Yeah, for me, this is like the LA song. It kind of encapsulates the whole album. It has that kind of like yacht rock organ in the background. It fits in right in with like Seals and Croft and Christopher Cross.
Yeah, I see that.
Oh boy, this is getting tough here. All right, I'm gonna go with one. I'm gonna go with this one might be a little bit out of left field because the Beach Boys never officially released this under the Beach Boys name, but it was intended for a couple of Beach Boys albums, I believe, but it was passed over. I'm gonna go with the song "Lady" or "Fallen in Love" by Dennis.
Mm.
I think this is an absolutely beautiful song. This is one of Dennis's collaborations with Daryl Dragon, who he also did some work with on other songs throughout the early 70s. But yeah, I really love the song a lot. I think it has a very pretty melody. Love the string arrangement. And again, some really heartfelt lyrics from Dennis. I believe they were written for his wife at the time, Barbara. But yeah, I know the song wasn't officially released as a Beach Boys song at the time. It was released as, I believe, a Dennis Wilson and Rumbo song. It was like a solo single. But I think the fact that the band actually did perform this song live at least a couple of times, I think they even did it on a TV show. I
And
think
they
that,
included it on box sets too.
and it's been on box sets, and Carl and Al, I believe, played on it as well. So I think for that reason, you can make a case that this could count as a Beach Boys song and not just a Dennis solo track. So I'm going to nominate Lady from that.
Jake, I do agree with everything you said about the song. The melody is pretty. I do really like the strings. But to me, the song isn't standout enough for me to vote yes on for the list. So it's a no for me.
I would say it's standout enough if it was like if we were like 10 songs prior, but the fact that we have 4 more, like I feel like there's definitely more than 4 that are better than this one, or at least that I'd rather choose to represent the other members' songwriting talents. So I'm gonna say no, but I do love it, and it's one of Dennis's more melodic songs, and it's definitely his best Gerald Dragon song.
Well, since you're already outvoted, but I'm going to give it a yes. Or I guess that makes it a tie. I don't know what we do in the case.
Yeah,
that's the majority, man.
Okay. But yeah, a beautiful, beautiful track. It's not one I would have come up with, but beautiful arrangement. It's always seemed a little out of focus to me in some way. I don't know exactly how to describe that.
Like fidelity wise, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it's fidelity, and also it needs just a bit more of a hook in there somewhere, I think, writing wise. But that aside, that's a quibble. It's a great track, and I would love to see it as part of the group.
Yeah, for me, the simplicity of the melody is honestly like kind of the charm of the song for me. I just think it really flows just really smoothly. And yeah, I really love the production. In terms of the actual like sound of it, like the fidelity, I do listen to the version from the Feel Flows box set. I don't know how, I know there's other versions of it that are out there too. I don't know how those sound, but to me, the Feel Flows sounds great to my ears. I think the arrangement's great with the strings. But yeah, I think it's a really pretty song, but oh well.
I think fidelity wise, I think the very early drum machine on it kind of helps with, or not really helps, contributes to that.
Yeah.
Very, very early drum machine that kind of creates that like acoustic drum sound. It's weird.
Yeah, it sounds a little underwater to me on like the Good Vibrations box set mix, but the Feel Flows one did sort of bring some life back to it.
Yeah.
All right, is it my turn?
Back to Nate. Yep. We still have 4 more spots to go here.
My next selection is a tune by Mr. Alan Jardine, who I think deserves a little more representation on the list. And to me, this is definitely one of his most mysterious songs. It seems like there's a whole story or something it may be based on. I love the way he incorporates folk and even sort of Spanish textures, and that is Looking Down the Coast. I think it's just a really haunting song, and I love the way that it starts in major with the 1-4-5, and then when it switches to the "This Must Be Monterey," it goes from the key of C major to the key of C minor, which is very effective and very haunting. And I think it's definitely one of Al's best compositions. I do think Brian possibly had a hand in it, although when it came out on Al's album, Brian didn't have a co-write credit as far as I remember. So I really do think that this was more of a Al song. Although on the subject of Brian, I do like how it continues the tradition started by California Saga and California Feelin', where Brian basically sings the opening line or two and then it changes to another vocalist. In this case, it switches from Brian to Al. But yeah, I love this song.
I'll give it a vote. I had it on my list from Al's solo album, so I do think it's a good enough just composition from Al. It might be the most Al Jardine song ever, though. It is so Al. It's like that whole switch up to the "This Must Be Monterey," like that's a very Al thing to do. I think it is very hooky in the beginning, and then it kind of cuts down to that like folky part. Yeah, it definitely gets my vote. And I think this is the first Al. It's definitely the first like pure Al song that we have on here. I know he has some credits on some of the other ones, but I'll give it a vote.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of it, but I'm glad you suggested it, Nate. because Al belongs on here, and that's a great choice. So
I know it might be
Al a
hard to
little more
include on a
attention.
playlist. I
What
didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, no. I'm glad you thought of it. I never would have thought of it. I'd heartily give it a yes.
in terms of the song itself, I do like that Beach Boys version of it. I don't know like how high quality that recording is. I've heard it a couple of times. But I do think it's a cool arrangement and everything. Definitely a cool track. Like Nate said, it's always kind of reminded me of like the California Saga trilogy, kind of like with the lyrics and just like the songwriting. And yeah, I really love like the transitions, like the "This must be Monty Ray." It's just a really cool track. Yeah, the Al solo version I probably don't enjoy quite as much as the original Beach Boys version, but I think it would
I
be
agree.
All
The
right.
solo version sounds a little sterile and a little too clean. And I think the murkiness and almost griminess of that original Beach Boys bootleg version adds to the haunting nature of the song.
so. Do
So
we?
are we including it as his solo?
What do we want to do, Nate? Do you want
Boys
to
version?
include it as a Beach Boys song on here?
Well, we could if it's like a YouTube playlist,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
oh yeah, then let's include the Beach Boys version.
okay, that'll be a Beach Boys song. Okay, so yeah, I'll give it a yes, but there's definitely songs I would have preferred over it, but I'll give it a yes too.
All right, Steve.
3 to go.
Okay, are we talking about solo songs, or are we talking
You could
about?
throw one out there. I mean, I don't see why not. We're already at the end.
But we have 3 remaining Beach Boy songs, and we have 4 spots available for solo songs.
Okay, well, this just occurred to me, and I'm going to go way left field on this and go. Can You Hear Me from Blondie Chaplin's 1977 solo,
Oh,
which
well,
is a
yeah,
great
that's
rocking song. Never, I believe it was a single A side, which of course never charted, but great rocking number. It just occurred to me, and I just wanted to throw in something out of left field. I don't know if you guys know
definitely
the song at all.
that's definitely a yes from me. And I never made this connection before, but of like all the solo Blondie stuff I've heard, that's definitely one that I could see in an alternate universe being a Beach Boys song. It just definitely has a lot of that vitality and energy to it. So it's a
I
yes
don't.
for me. Yeah, that's cool. Didn't think of that, but I dig it.
Cool.
I've heard it before. I had to give it a quick listen right now just to make sure I recognized it. Fuck it, yeah, I'll give it a yes. I like it. Definitely out of left field, and it kind of covers some Ricky and Blondie ground. So
Yeah, I actually don't know if I've heard it, so I can't vote. But you guys voted it on, so I will definitely check that song out. So
would that count as a solo song though?
that's definitely
Definitely.
a solo song. Yep.
Definitely.
All right, looks like somebody might not be getting a solo track. Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like a lot of these playlists are good for listeners to get some new music, anyways. So if we're not,
Yeah. All right, it's Riley up next here.
this is tough.
We have 3 more of each, I think. If we're including Looking Down the Coast as a Beach Boys song, then we have 3 Beach Boys songs left and 3 more solo songs. So
I could pull one from the '80s. Um,
late 70s.
I could pull a late '70s one. You know what, man? I'll pull a late '80s one. I'll go with the other one that I wanted from Still Cruising, and that was Somewhere Near Japan. I think that this is not just one of the best. Like, if you were to make like a compilation of the best or a Beach Boys song to represent from like each era, this would probably represent the '80s for me. I think this is the best Beach Boys song from the '80s. Give or take a couple that I do like Get You Back and maybe I don't know, but beautiful composition from John Phillips, and it was greatly expanded upon by Mike Love, Terry Melcher, and Bruce Johnston. I love how everybody in the band gets a little time to shine singing in this song. You get Al with that gorgeous bridge. You get Carl in there. You get Brian, not Brian. You get Bruce and Mike. I think Brian's the only one who doesn't actually get a vocal on it. But the production's gorgeous. I love the arrangement. It doesn't feel too 80s. And honestly, I could see this just being one of the best songs from the band, period. Gorgeous track. I love it. And it proves that they always had a good song in their back pocket whenever they wanted.
Yeah, I love this song so much, and it's a bummer that it has these weird sort of socio-political drug overtones that I think kind of prevented the song from being more popular on radio and MTV and VH1 and all that sort of circuit that existed in that era. I think if the song's subject matter was a little more commercial, it could have been a much bigger song. With that said, yeah, one of the greatest deep cuts, and like Riley said, probably just one of my favorite Beach Boys songs ever. It's obviously completely different than things like Barbara Ann or Heroes and Villains, but it's so unique and it's very emotional, and I love the vocals, so it's a yes for me, absolutely. Great 12-string guitar too on there.
Steve?
Yeah, this is a track that it took me a long time to come around to, and it was only because people kept recommending that I go back to it. Because by the time it's still cruising, I'd kind of tuned out on what they were doing. And the lyrics, I mean, as you mentioned, Nate, are so arcane to me that to me, it's kind of like this story song or a song from somebody else's life that does not resonate with me at all. But if I just listen to the track, that is a really beautiful track and a beautiful, melody, beautiful song. I just wish they'd done some different lyrics. Also, just the title put me off. It's like, somewhere near Japan. What does that mean to me? But
Yeah, for a bunch of guys from Southern California, it's like, what are you talking about?
yeah, and I mean, I guess it could have been, a travel log or something. But anyway, lyrics. If it had a different set of lyrics, it'd be a slam dunk. But I'll go ahead and go with it because I know it's very, very popular.
Yeah, so it's made our album because it's got 3 votes, but I'm kind of with you on this one, Steve. Like this one where a lot of people I know really praise this one. They really like this song. They call it like one of the highlights of like the band's like, later 80s, I guess, post like 1980 catalog. I think this is one I kind of appreciate more than I like genuinely like love the song. I think the production on it's really cool. I think it has a really slick sound to it. I like the sound of the guitars on it. I think it's cool that the guys each have like different vocal parts. But yeah, I've never really connected with this one in the way that I've connected with a lot of their other material, even some of the other later 80s material, to be honest. So I think the song's fine, and it's one that has grown on me over time. Like, it's one that I have listened to a little bit more as of late, but still not a favorite. So I personally would not have voted yes on it, but it's on the album because you got 3 votes. So
Steve, it's curious. I'm curious, like hearing what your like point of view, because it seems like you liked '85 when it came out. Was that true?
I liked it. I like it more as time has gone by.
Yeah, but
there were certain tracks on '85 that I warmed up to right away. It was better than I expected it to be too, because the last thing we'd heard was "Keeping the Summer Alive."
So that's my favorite. But then I imagine like 4 years pass and then they drop a new album. It's like that's a lot, especially in the '80s. That's a big amount of time between albums.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was like they were getting back together, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years. And yeah, but I thought "Get You Back" was a strong lead-off single, and I like the Carl tracks. I like the Stevie Wonder song that they did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Thoughts on "California Calling," Steve?
Yeah, no, I don't like "California Calling." That is to me the prime example of them trading on their earlier work in a way that I don't like.
It's got Ringo though.
Yeah, well, Ringo's played
out
on
of all the songs
before.
on that album, it had to be freaking "California Calling."
That song has grown
That's
on
a
me
good call.
way too much. "California Calling." I used to be like, I hate this, and now I'm like, fuck, it's kind of fun. All right, so this will likely be my last selection, and this is really tough because there's quite a few songs on here I haven't even mentioned that I really think would be worthy of being on there. All right, I'm gonna go with one from the late '70s. I do want to give a little more representation from Al. I'm gonna go with "Lady Linda" from Ron Al Jardine. So yeah, this song is based on the classical Bach piece, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. But for me, the song still stands on its own. I think it's a really great composition. I really love the arrangement with the strings and the horns. I really like the heartfelt lyrics from Al as well, which are about his wife at the time, Linda. Thankfully, despite Al and Linda splitting up, the band never attempted to change the song or rewrite the words because that would have been really stupid. So at least that didn't happen.
Totally fucking stupid.
But yeah, I think it's a great song. One of the highlights of the LA Light album for me. And yeah, I just think it's one of the highlights of the band's late '70s period. So I think it's a great song.
I totally agree. Yes, from me. Maybe some of the greatest harmonies on a Beach Boys song that weren't arranged by Brian. Those vocals sort of towards the end are just spine tingling. And some people don't like the classical interpolations and the harpsichords and the orchestra, but I actually do, especially once I learned that Dennis was the one that arranged the orchestral parts. I was just so surprised to learn that. But that made the song even more special to me. That was like one of his random sort of later day contributions studio wise. So yeah, a very, very cool song. Gorgeous Ron Altbach chord changes and the
Mhm.
ways that he snuck the Bach into the song, and Al's lyrics are very touching. So yeah, I love that song.
Steve?
Yeah, I'll vote yes on it. I like the classical interpolation. I can see some people find it corny, but to me it works. It's fine, and yeah, I love the performance. Nice song.
Hell yeah, man! I love this one. I just love the whole flow of the song. It goes so smoothly. It's a good pace. It's like so gentle and like tender, but it's also a little bit hype at the same time. And I think Al gives just a killer vocal, and I can't believe that. Actually, yeah. So thank God they never remade it into something else that just like where the lyrics don't even rhythmically fit with the song. Thank God they never did that because that would
Yeah.
totally suck.
Let's not
Yeah.
forget they did re-record it as Lady Liberty.
No, they didn't. No, they
That's
didn't.
no.
No, they didn't.
Steve, we've been kind of skirting around that.
All right.
And it
Yeah.
was a big hit overseas.
Yeah, it was like wasn't it like number 2?
Top
You know,
5 in the UK, I think. Yeah, but I love the song. I like Nate mentioned too, the harmonies at the end, like the "Ooh, lady, won't you lie, lady." It's just a really great vocal arrangement, and I think this is one of those songs that benefits from the fact that Al's the one singing it. I think Al just gives it a really heartfelt and genuine vocal, and yeah, I really love the song a lot.
Yeah, I can't picture Carl singing this one. I feel like he kind
Well,
of
he does sing it. He does sing part of it on that unspoken song that we're trying to ignore. It doesn't really. I don't really like it on there, to be honest. I think the song fits Al the best. So
yeah, Al's perfect voice for
I
it.
think this is definitely one of the LA songs that benefited from the sort of frosting on the cake that Bruce brought with the production. Some of the LA songs sound a bit overblown, but I've heard earlier versions of Lady Linda, and the final version that we all hear on the album that became a hit is really gorgeously produced. I think that was
yeah,
probably a combination of Al and Gercio and Bruce, but yeah, a great, great teamwork on that song.
Imagine Dennis singing this one. Fly, lady, lady Linda.
Riley, didn't you say one of your friends was playing this in the car one day and you heard the beginning start up like the da na na and you
Yep,
were
I was with my friend. He's like a casual Beach Boys fan, but like from the 20 like my generation.
yeah.
So they'll like swerve through Spotify and find songs they like. But I remember like one day I was like in the car with like a bunch of my friends, and like keep in mind some of my friends listen to like rap and shit. But he like we're kind of going through his chill playlist, and we hear freaking I hear the opening part. I'm like, this guy is either like trying to play classical music in the car, or because there's no way he's playing Lady Linda. And then I hear, "Won't you come here tonight?" And I was like, "Oh shit!"
That's hilarious, man. I love that.
Like he knows like "Don't Worry, Baby" and like a couple of like the Sunflower songs, but I did not expect for him to play Lady Linda.
I think that speaks to the strength of the song, to be honest. All right, one song left from the Beach Boys on our compilation, and 3 more from the solo catalog. So I believe the last pick for the Beach Boys possibly will be Nate. So
First and last. Wow, how did that happen? I guess it's divisions of 4. But anyway, for my final song, I'm gonna keep the Al Jardine streak going and nominate what I think is one of the big signals in the Beach Boys' career that they weren't the Beach Boys that you used to know, and that they were really evolving somewhere else. And that is a song that he wrote with Mike from the 70s called Don't Go Near the Water. And I think it's a very haunting song. I think the vocals are sublime. I think the choices arrangement wise are very interesting with the sort of tack piano and the synthesizers and the wah wah guitar. Really interesting guitar work from Al. At this point in the Beach Boys' career, Al wasn't doing a ton of guitar playing in the studio, but on this song, his guitar playing is really unique and pretty out there for him. And, Mike's lyrics are really thought provoking. And of course, the coda is just really gorgeous. when I was watching the Beach Boys' recent Disney movie, and the movie begins with that "Don't Go Near the Water" coda. I'm not gonna lie, it gave me chills. My eyes sort of welled up with tears. And it really, hearing that in the context of watching that Beach Boys movie reminded me just how gorgeous that song is. So I have to nominate that one.
Riley?
I'll go yes on that, mainly because of the arrangement and the interesting production, as Nate pointed out. The song itself, yeah, it's all right, kind of simple. I like the ending coda, but yeah, it's the arrangement and the production that really make it outstanding for me.
Riley?
I don't know. It's the last band one.
I think it's a fitting last band one.
Yeah, I know. You make a really good case. Jake, why don't you go?
Yeah, so this one was an honorable mention for me. Like, it's one that I would consider if it came up. Yeah, I think you made a compelling case for it. I do think it's a strong track from Alan Mike. I really like the production and the arrangement on it. Like you mentioned, that coda is really haunting at the end. If I remember right, I think Daryl Dragon maybe arranged that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, really cool song. I also love Alice part during the middle, like the toothpaste and soap can make the oceans a bubble bath. I've always really liked that a lot. And yeah, like you said, it kind of reflects the band changing at the time, like kind of doing more like socially conscious lyrics and writing songs about the environment and pollution. So it's a really cool track, and it kind of introduces their new era with Jack Riley. So even though it's not one I would have nominated myself, I'm going to give it a yes for me. So
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not like I have much of a say left, anyways. But yeah, it's good. I do really like it. I think the backing track is far better than any of like the lyrical content. Because I feel the lyrics are cool in concept, but I don't know if they pull them off like perfectly. But that backing track is incredible.
Wow, 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 wow.
Great arrangement. I think that alone kind of makes the list because I think Brian had little to no involvement in the backing track, anyways. And I do like the vocal delivery. It's just some of the lyrics are a bit like too on the nose with
On
the
the nose.
"Don't go near the water." It's the water's bad,
you
It killed my dad.
but
You guys ever heard that version?
I think I have. Yeah.
but yeah, screw it. Yeah, it's a great song.
All right, so we have 3 solo tracks available to include, 3 remaining spots. So up next is Steve. So Steve, do you have a solo Beach Boys song?
I already did. I'm happy to do another one, but I already did a solo track. Do you 3 want to take the final 3?
I'm gonna nominate a Dennis one. It's my favorite Dennis track. Maybe it's not like his most well known, but it's easily my favorite for the backing track and just the whole chillness to it. You and I from Pacific Ocean Blue. I just love it. It kind of sounds like it could be like a modern indie song. I love the organ on it or the keyboard. I always get confused with some of those because there's a lot
Like
of
a Fender Rhodes.
yeah, like there's like all sorts of different keyboards and organs. I kind of forget like which one's exactly which, but I love the sound of that in the background. And it just shows Dennis could just write a mid-tempo chill song. I absolutely love this one. It's easily my favorite from him. And I think it's a pretty good love song from him. It's not like so in your face like Forever. It's very laid back. I love it.
If I had been going to nominate the next one, that's the one I would have said. So, and I'm kind of surprised because for most people, it seems like they forget that one off Pacific Ocean Blue. Everybody goes with River Song, which is a great song. But I really love You and I think it's well constructed. So often Dennis would have these beautiful chord structures, but wouldn't really turn them into a cohesive pop song. And I think he really did that there. It was a nice single, made a good single A side. It's a song I really love and go back to very often.
Yeah, I absolutely love this song. This is one of my favorite Dennis songs ever, like from his entire career. Like you guys said, it's a very well constructed song. Definitely very commercial, I feel, as well. Like to me, like this is one that I could have seen actually charting. I don't think it did, but it's one I could have seen getting some radio airplay. Yeah, it's just a really great song. I like the lyrics as well. very heartfelt, and I really like that little middle section with the guitar. It's very like a kind of like a tropical sounding guitar solo in the middle, which I really like as well. So very, very pretty track, and I've actually always preferred it to River Song. So I love it.
Yeah, Steve, I think you're right that a lot of Dennis songs sound like brilliant ideas, but nonetheless just ideas. And this is one song where he really ties everything together and makes it a complete thought with distinct sections and brings the hooks back around. And yeah, so it's a really wonderful song. Kind of like a little bit of like, I don't know if I'd say like Randy Newman or Elvis Costello, but definitely like that 70s singer-songwriter vibe. And this is one where, you hear like the legends of Dennis like showing up at smoky bars and sitting at a piano and playing for smokes and drinks. And this is definitely one that I could picture Dennis singing in that kind of environment.
All right, so I will give a solo nomination here. If it were me, I'd want to get another Dennis one on, but since we do have plenty of Dennis representation already on the actual Beach Boys part of the album, and we just did a Dennis song for a solo song, I am going to go with a different member. I'm going to go with the Carl song. This is one I nominated on a previous episode, and it didn't end up making the album because you guys didn't vote for it. But it's one that I feel like if we're going to represent Carl on here, like as a solo artist, I feel like this one would be the most fitting. Heaven by Carl. I think it's a very, very pretty ballad from Carl. Really like the production on it, the very soft kind of sound, kind of like almost like a sequel to Forever in a way in terms of like the production. Just a very pretty song. I love Carl's vocals on it. Very emotive delivery. And yeah, I just think it's a very moving song, and it's especially moving like now, knowing that like, Carl's passed away and everything. It's just a very moving track. So, and I think Brian likes it as well, which is pretty cool. So Heaven from Carl.
But I'll redeem myself. I'll vote yes. We're doing the entire like 1980 through now with the Beach Boys. Might be a bit hard to vote for that one, but you can make a solid point if we're representing Carl's entire solo career. In terms of like his sound, I think this is the best song that came out of that. Even though I prefer "What You Do to Me" from I think Youngblood as like a song, I think this is a great ballad from Carl, and it's a beautiful song. It definitely deserves a spot on this list. So I'll give it a yes.
I do gotta say, I'm sorry, Carl, but yeah, this one just doesn't move me all that much. So probably a no for me. I think there are probably just a few more ones that touch me more.
All right, Steve, it's down.
To me, this is the standout song of Carl's solo career. It is a little long. I think some editing would have helped. But from the very first play, when the day the album came out, that was the song that stood out on the record. Yeah, if Carl's going to be represented, this would be if Carl's solo is going to be represented, I think this would be the track.
All right, so we have one spot remaining on our album, one more solo track. So, Steve, you want to mention one now? Or?
Nate hasn't done a solo track. You got one, Nate?
All right.
Yeah.
Nate.
So this is another one that sort of on a similar theme to what you just said, Jake. This is one that I've suggested before, but here I am. I'm going to suggest it again. And I think it's just a really wonderful song. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that this is the last release by one of the Beach Boys founding members. I think it's a really well done tune, and that is the very recent release, Wish by Al Jardine. I think the fact that it's a tribute to Dennis and Brian and Carl makes it even more emotive. And I just think it's a really cool story that Al and Larry DeBoskin wrote that in the 90s, and that they wrote that during the Beach Boys reunion sessions that were happening in the mid 90s. And, that album obviously never saw the light of day, but thankfully this single recently did, as a sort of time capsule from that era. And Al's vocal is just so damn good, and I love the backing harmonies. So I think it's a very, very touching and tender song.
I remember listening to it and enjoying it quite a bit. But there is an Al song that has a Carl contribution to it that I think I'd rather nominate from Al's solo record. I'll say no, but I don't think it's a bad song. I think it's a great single, especially from a very late release by Al. but I'll say no just because I'd rather have that being an Al representation for solo.
I haven't heard it. I totally missed it. I didn't even know
Oh,
it
you
was.
should check it out. It's a really, really, really great tune.
I absolutely will. I don't know how I missed it. Thanks for letting me know about it.
Oh, of course.
But obviously I got to abstain from voting because I haven't heard it.
Well, I could switch my nomination to Waves of Love too, because Wish and Waves of Love are actually related. They're Wish is almost a bit of a Waves of Love like rewrite in a very Al tradition. So if we think Waves of Love with Carl would round out the list, I could sort of
I was gonna say
switch my
don't fight the
nomination over
sea.
to that.
I was gonna say
Oh,
don't.
true.
Well, okay, so was Waves of Love co-written by Al? I know because Don't Fight the Sea, I believe, is originally a Terry Jacks song, I believe.
Yeah, Waves of Love is Larry Devaskin and Al Jardine.
So I would personally say like the fact that we're kind of sticking to like songs that were written by the members. I think Waves of Love would be great just because it's got great vocal from Al, great song, and hearing Carl on it is really moving as well. I do love Don't Fight the Sea too. I think that that's a really cool track. But knowing that Al played a role in writing Waves of Love, I would personally go with that. But
Yeah, I'll go Waves of Love. I like that one too.
yeah, that's the one Al has redone like 4 or 5 times, right, Nate?
Yeah, well, there it is. Yep.
Autograph copy. Yeah. This is 2.0. But yeah,
So
I'll give it a yes.
All right.
All right.
Fantastic playlist.
Do you guys want to like format this in any particular way?
Yeah. Before we do format it, were there any other extra songs you guys wanted to briefly shout out that you didn't get a chance to, or ones that would have made your personal list? Just real quick, if you just want to rattle them off.
Off the
Don't
top of
Run
my
Away
head,
by Bruce and Terry.
I love that song.
we count Don't Run Away because I totally would have voted for that.
That can be a bonus track.
There you go.
Off the top of my head, a couple of Dennis ones. Steamboat from Holland for sure would have been an awesome one to have. I think that's another one that fits the Holland vibe very well. I think it's just one of his best written songs, and it never gets mentioned in anywhere. Wouldn't it be nice to live again? Just another Dennis one that's really good. Another Dennis one that's really good that I really love. Love Surrounds Me, groovy song from LA. I totally would have mentioned it, but I'm pretty happy with what we got. We already mentioned Baby Blue. A couple of the Terry Melcher, Mike Loves ones that I kind of liked. Island Fever, such a vibe. I know it's like totally corny and like pretty badly produced, but I love the chord progression and the general songwriting, so I'll always stick up for that one. A lot of the anything by Ricky and Blondie, I easily would have voted for. I just kind of wanted to stay away from that because I know they're not like they're members of the band, but they're not any of the core 5.5. If you include Bruce. Susie Cincinnati is another fun one by Al. Any of the mixes, I know they tried to do that one a bunch of times. Be With Me from 2020 is a pretty good Dennis track. And It's Getting Late. That's about it. Pretty much everything else I got on.
Yeah, I would have thrown out Strange Things Happen, Living with a Heartache, Passing Friend, Hold On Dear Brother, Sumahama.
Passing Friend was written by Boy George, so we probably couldn't.
Oh, right. That's fair. I had Looking at Tomorrow, and I also had Make It Big. And then for solo, I had Too Cruel by Mike Love, Friday Night by Dennis Wilson. And those were the ones I didn't. Oh, and Endless Harmony. Those were the ones I didn't get to include.
Hell yeah.
That's already been on too many compilations. But
for me, a few I wanted to quickly mention, like Riley mentioned, Be With Me. I think it's a really, pretty cool early track by Dennis. I really like the strings and the arrangement on that. Very kind of haunting song. It's About Time from Sunflower. I think it's a really great rocker. I think that's a really cool song. Kind of has like a Latin influence to it, like with the percussion, like with the congas, drums, which is really cool. So I've always really liked that song a lot.
And like a metalish guitar riff.
Right, really heavy guitar riff too. You're right. Wouldn't It Be Nice to Live Again, which Riley mentioned. I think that's a really fantastic Dennis song that should have made Sweet Up, but didn't because of band politics. Here She Comes, awesome Blondie and Ricky song. I'm surprised that one didn't make it, but we only had so much room. We Got Love, the live version from the In Concert album, I think is a great Blondie Ricky track. Susie Cincinnati, which I believe Riley mentioned, is a really fun song from Al. Just a really great track, really fun. I love the guitar riff, like that. Just a really fun track. Love Surrounds Me, which Riley also mentioned. Great Dennis song from the LA Light album. I do want to make a correction. I believe on a couple of previous episodes, we said that the falsetto was Bruce. According to multiple people, it's actually Dennis's partner at the time, Christine McVie, was from Fleetwood Mac. Which re-listening to it, it does sound more like her to me than it does Bruce, so I imagine it was her. But I think that's a really cool kind of groove of a song, so really like that one. And then a few quick shout Full Sail from Carl and Jeffrey Cushing Murray, Steamboat, Only With You, and I've always kind of liked Tears in the Morning enough where I would have voted for it, but I left it off because I know it probably wasn't going to get enough votes. So
Not a freaking chance.
Also from Dennis, Time and Thoughts of You are awesome songs. So Steve, anything to shout out real quick before we start?
Food Fair by David Marks. No, I'm kidding.
I should have done shit.
Oh, yeah, throw David Marks in there.
Gotta throw him a bone.
Sheriff Nottingham should have made this list.
Yeah, but actually, certainly Steamboat, Love Surrounds Me, things that you guys have already mentioned. You know, we could have done a lot more Dennis. Most of Pacific Ocean Blue could have gone, I think, if we really started to dig deep on Dennis. Wouldn't it be nice to live again? California Saga, California. I like that. I think that was probably a really great track live in concert. That must have gone over great. Yeah. It's getting late, and you know, people really love Where I Belong from.
I don't get it. I don't get it
either. I don't get it.
It's all right.
When I talked about Beach Boy 85, I got so many people saying that's the best track on it, and it's fine. Stay with me.
To me, what I love about that song, with the very sparse percussion and the timpanis and all the keyboards, is, to me, it sounds like one of the only times they tried to revisit a like Pet Sounds style of arranging, albeit it's with samplers and synthesizers and computers, but still, it's kind of has a bit of a Pet Sounds vibe to me.
Yeah. The only part of it that sticks with me is like that little bridge section, like the in my mind we're together. I like that little part, but like the rest of it, like the chorus and stuff, doesn't really do too much for me. Also, Nate, I'll give you a quick shout out real quick. Another Mike solo song. I do like I Don't Want to Know.
Yeah, that's a really cool song. That could have been a Beach Boys song.
Got a
very
cool
bluesy
R&B flavor to it. Yeah.
I like 10,000 Years a lot too.
10,000 Years. Yeah, that's that Mike and Dennis one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that one that Mike Love did for the freaking lockdown?
This Too Shall Pass.
Yeah, we forgot to This Too Shall Pass on there, man.
It's kind of like a viral Super Bowl.
That song is such a time capsule now.
Yeah.
All right, so we finished sequencing our track list for the Beach Boys Best of the Rest compilation album. So, Riley, do you want to read off the track list that we've assembled?
Sure do. All right, start off, we have Don't Go Near the Water, Slip On Through, Big Sur, the Feel Flows version, Deirdre, Forever, Long Promised Road, Disney Girls 1957, Feel Flows, All This Is That, The Traitor, Leaving This Town, Can You Hear Me from Blondie's solo record, Looking Down the Coast, the Beach Boys version, You and I from Pacific Ocean Blue, Angel Come Home, Lady Linda, It's a Beautiful Day, Get You Back, Maybe I Don't Know, Kokomo, Somewhere Near Japan, Lahaina Aloha, Heaven from Carl's solo record, and Waves of Love by Al Jardine.
Yeah, it's a great track list. Represents all the different periods of the band well. The early 70s, you got some of the later 70s material, the 80s stuff with Terry Melcher. So I think it's a good representation of the band's work, more or less without Brian. Obviously, Brian did contribute to quite a few of these songs, either vocally or with some arrangements. But I think it's great that, to represent the other guys' contributions to the group. And I think that this album does a good job of doing that. So
I think, if anything, we also mentioned a lot of the stuff that didn't make our list. There's a lot of other songs that are good. We just couldn't get them on, like Baby Blue. Nate mentioned Summer in Paradise, Still Cruising, Lady Falling in Love, and there's a ton of others that we didn't mention, like even Steamboat from Holland.
Here She Comes.
Yeah. Anything by Ricky and Blondie could have made it on this list easily.
Yeah, I mean, the catalog is deep enough where we could have expanded this track list a little bit, and we could have gotten even more songs on it, and it still would have been a really good list. So,
and there's some tracks that other members helped with Brian, like Good Timin' was Brian and Carl.
Mm-hmm.
Little Bird was Dennis, Brian, and Steve Kalinich.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking about Santa Ana Wins, but I think that was mostly Brian and Al sort of reworked it at the last minute, is what I've
Yeah,
read.
a good portion of Friends is just Al and Brian.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of stuff that we easily could have put on here.
Steve, any thoughts on our track list or any thoughts about the band?
I found it challenging, but it really came together nicely. I didn't think we'd be able to come up with 24 decent tracks, honestly, but we came up with 24, and there's a lot left over that, like you guys mentioned, that easily were up to the grade to go on. So no, it's just really interesting to see how it went. It was a lot more challenging and ended up a lot better than I expected.
Like looking
It
at
reminds me.
some of my favorite tracks, like The Traitor. I love Maybe I Don't Know. I know Disney Girls is one of Jake's favorites. Long Promise Road. They're arguably their biggest number one with Kokomo.
Yeah.
Forever is one of the most popular songs from the band. Yeah, it's great stuff.
It reminds me how much the people who think that the only stuff that's worthwhile was done by Brian, how much they're missing out. Like there's so much great music that was written by guys that in a way were basically sidemen, like for the first decade of the band, Brian and Mike ran the show, but then sort of out of the shadows, you find Al and Bruce and Carl and Dennis writing these amazing songs. So it was really a treat to be able to shine a spotlight on some of those wonderful, lesser known gems.
And it's cool to hear them kind of come into their own too. Like with the late 60s, you have Dennis starting to contribute songs with Friends in 2020. And then by the time you get to Sunflower, it's really a group effort. And you have, Bruce contributing some amazing songs and Dennis writing some of the best songs of his career. And again, I like that we represented multiple different periods. We didn't just do all the acclaimed stuff, like the stuff that a lot of critics tend to like from the early 70s. We also covered some of the later 70s material and beyond. So I think it's definitely a diverse representation of the other members' contribution.
You notice each of their different like styles with songwriting. Like Dennis is very like soulful. Carl's always brings a good punch to his songs. Al's very folky and like mellow with his stuff. Bruce just has a great knack for melody. So.
And then Blondie and Ricky, you have kind of that outside influence, or you have kind of like influences of prog and folk and all sorts of stuff. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Amen.
Should we wrap it up there? Any additional things you guys wanted to mention real quick, or?
Happy endings. I was thinking about
Nope. Little Richard representation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we will wrap it up there. So thank you everybody for listening to this 44th episode of Good Timin. Hope you all enjoyed the show. I had a really fun time doing this album draft with you guys, and it was great getting to highlight some of our favorite songs and contributions from the other members of the band. So as always, if you like this podcast and want to hear more, feel free to subscribe or follow wherever you're listening. We greatly appreciate the support as it motivates us to make more episodes in the future. Also, as a reminder, the Good Timin podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So there's plenty of different places to listen and keep up with the show. So thank you again, everybody, for listening, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.